turn hey, camera. Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast, episode 205. This week, Marty and I are going to do something a little different. Um, I've been just ultra busy and haven't had time to book a lot of guests lately. So we're going to go over, I have a whole stack of old presentations and cool stuff to go over. So I thought we'd maybe go over some of that. So today we're going to go over a greenhouse presentation of climate control I did originally for the Do Grow show, which was really cool. And then we're going to go ahead and go over a micronutrient or probiotic and beneficial insect presentation from the Aquaponics Association. But before that, we're going to talk about our grows and stuff like that. So what's up with you, Marty?
Well, let's see, we just finished cutting down the first run. So it's everything is on the rack at the moment. So that's definitely good. Gonna throw a couple of modifications on the beds and throw in a couple different strains and start again. And that'll be fun. So I have the best mixes that came out of the first experiments, and I'll be using smaller variations of the better mixes going into the next run. And then we'll lower the net down a little bit. We're going to change the way the drains come out of the bottom, because the way that my bulkhead fits, it sticks up inside the bed a little bit because of how it mounts. So I'm going to change that so it drops all the way through and drains that last little bit of water out. And yeah, I think that's about it. Just getting stuff, pulling down the dry stuff and getting it jarred up. So there you go. So I think we've probably already, between the bags and jars, probably, I think, just over a pound that we pulled down so far. So yeah, it's been pretty good. How's Oklahoma going?
Oklahoma's going good. I got a new puppy here a couple days ago, well, maybe about a week ago now.
Is that on his name yet?
Yeah, his name is Draco.
Draco?
Yeah, normally he's sound asleep over there, so we'll let him stay asleep. But if he wakes up before the end of the show, I'll grab him. Nice. He is quite awesome. So just getting him used to the farm, and then kind of just doing the last of the field prep. We kind of had a bit of a snag due to the rains, and now that we've had some time for everything to dry out a little bit, we've just been going over trying to get all the rocks out of the field. It was originally an oak forest. Before we had it, it was an oak forest. The guy before us cleared the oak forest and made it a pasture, but there were still quite a few large rocks and a few stumps and stuff. So we've had to clear all that out, which we didn't realize quite how much junk was in there, but that's pretty much almost done. And then once that's done, we can go through and finish disking it and getting it all the way turned in, and then we can go ahead and mound it, and then set our drip lines and set our plants. And then once the plants are all in for about a week, we'll go ahead and set our cover crop, or maybe even plant it right after we plant the cannabis plants, but shortly thereafter. So that'll be a lot of fun, and then we'll be off to the races. We're closer to 6 acres now. We somebody got a little overzealous with the backhoe and the tree line, so.
Right on.
Yeah. So I've been doing that, and then just trying to make sure we got enough clones to fill out the fields, and yeah. And then we also had very first smoke out event in Oklahoma since the COVID outbreak. So that was really nice to go out. Frankly, just nice to go out and go to a normal cannabis event again. I'm sure it's pissing a few people off by hearing me say that, but as far as I'm aware, no one got sick from that. I know quite a few people that were there. We've been in contact with quite a few people in the cannabis industry. There's been no problem. So it was really cool. And, who would have thought that you could rent out a bar in Oklahoma and throw a medical patient-only cannabis event where you can not only smoke cannabis, but buy drinks as well. I don't know of any other state that allows both of those things to happen in that type of event. So that was with the local police's blessing. So that was very cool that they actually allow those types of events. So very surprising, but very awesome. And so really cool to be part of that event. And I guess to make sure they keep happening, we'll leave the event anonymous. But if you check out my Instagram, you'll definitely find out more. Yeah, so that was really cool. We have a whole bunch of concentrates coming down. We took most of our flower. It was just super loud. And then we decided to make some really high-end live resin from it. So yeah, it's going to come out really, really, really well. We have a whole bunch of stuff. I'm trying to think if we have any in here. I think it's all in the vault right now. But we have some really nice stuff coming down the line. I got some pictures I posted up. So that'll be really wonderful. If you're out in Oklahoma and you're a medical patient, be sure to look for that. We'll have a whole bunch of stuff that'll start hitting the shelves in the next week or two. So if that's something that you guys are looking for, be sure to look for that out there. We will have both White Moose and Apothecary branded concentrates on the market in Oklahoma here in the next few days. So be sure to check that out. Anything else going on? Where do you? Oh, actually, something else came. I want to give a big shout out to Mr. Green Jeans with the hookup as always. Beautiful bag of beans. If you aren't sure already, be sure to check out mrgreenjeansgarden.com. Shoot him a contact and he will give you his current list. But he was kind enough to send us an awesome little care package. So we got Oreo Blizzard, we got Fijoa Kush, we got Blue Jack, which is Jack Herrera BSBB. The BSBB is Blue Dream, Island Sweet Skunk, and Fijoa Kush. We got Super Lemon Balm F2. We got the Blue Hash 1 White Wizard F8. So that's awesome. We got the Pineapple Jack. We got the Cherry Jack. We got the Black Jack. We got the Wayback Jack. We got, what else? Koji Kush, Green Jeans Cherry Bomb, and Oreo. So big shout out to Mr. Green Jeans. We will definitely have a good time getting a lot of your amazing genetics out to the Oklahoma market. We'll do some sifting on the seeds, and then we'll get some really nice phenos out here. And if you're looking for clones, you can email sales@organic-ok.com, and you can find out more information. You do have to send a copy of your license in order to receive a copy. So it's for licensed companies only, not for the general public. Alrighty. Also, a big shout out to Roger at True Aquaponics. We've had quite a big uptick in the last few months in people using the Aquaponic nutrient subscription, as well as just aquaponic customers over there. So be sure to check out True Aquaponics. If you have a commercial aquaponics facility and you are kind of struggling with your nutrients, you can sign up for a subscription service, have your nutrients tested, and a pre-dosed and pre-measured package shipped straight to your door. All you got to do is rip it open on the date on the bag, pour it in your system, and away you go. You fill out a survey. It tells us about your system. We test your water and fix all of your nutrient problems in a fish-safe way for you for a low flat price. So be sure to check that out over at trueaquaponics.com. Alrighty, Marty, anything else you wanted to go over in your grow? Any other cuts? I know you're getting close to harvest soon. What are you going to be growing your next run?
So I do think I'm going to grow a little bit more Thorsberry just so I can kind of continue that as a baseline to the next run. I'll probably grow just a couple of the two that I grew this time, which is the pineapple by banana by peach frost and Thornsberry. Those are the two. And then I have snowman, and I have the pineapple jack or jack pineapple. I can't remember. It's also from Mr. Green Jeans in the Kajoa Kush, or however you say it. So yeah, those are. Let's see, what else do I have? I have Snowman, Wi-Fi, I have Sunset Sherbert. I don't have
So
a lot of Wi-Fi though.
those of you that don't know, oh no, it's not gonna work. Oh, there we go. Hold on, let me turn off my background a second. So
You get these cool little,
yeah, it gives you these cool breeding charts. It's the lineage, so, and he's been breeding since the 70s. So a lot of these go back. Some of these charts, yes, for some of these strains are pretty insane. So
yeah.
But if you want to
do that, but he'll send you. I'm sure that little sheet that Steve was just looking at probably has like stories or more information about each one of them. So like
he crossed my blue hash with way back Jack and the BSBB to get the. So anyways, it's fucking sweet.
Like story about his cut of Jack. Has he told you about his? Supposedly it's the same cut of Jack that he's been keeping since like 1985 or some shit like
yeah, that. Super old Jack Herrera cut. So yeah, it's fucking sweet. There we go. But yeah,
so I'll probably do mostly the Kajoa Kush and maybe the probably Snowman. I think are probably the next couple that I'll run indoors, but I haven't decided yet. I've got cuts of all of them ready to go. So.
Oh, that reminds me. So we crossed. We did some pheno hunting, and we had some really nice sunset Mac males. We had 3 just really killer males. So we crossed those with cheese and with a purple Alaskan purple. So we have a sunset cheese that we'll have here soon. We're going to start sorting. That'll be really nice. I'm really looking forward to that one. Real curious what the offspring look like. The cheese cut is really, really nice. So I'm hoping that we get quite a few nice, fat, stable, chunky seedlings out of those. And then we got about a week and a half, 2 weeks left on those plants. And then those seeds will be ready. So that'll be fun. Yeah, trying to think what else. We're going to be building. Oh, you know what? We'll save that for a separate video because that'll be cool. I'll try to do a video update tomorrow on the update on the greenhouse. We've changed quite a bit in the greenhouse since the last time I've shown you guys. We have quite a few plants. You guys will be surprised by the difference in growth. And just cleared a lot of stuff out, moved a lot of stuff into the flowering rooms, and just getting ready to gear up to start doing a lot of 1 gallons. We're going to start vegging them for 3 weeks and selling ready to flips because there's a huge demand in Oklahoma for stuff that's ready to flip. You know, a lot of people just want to buy stuff they can throw in a room and flip it. So we're going to start doing that. So that'll be a lot of fun, and it's a great business model for Aquaponics because, you know, we can print an ungodly amount of clones off of those raft beds. So, you know, without having to do too much effort.
Yeah, I mean, cloning.
Alrighty. Anything else that you wanted to mention before I start up with one of the presentations?
No, I don't think so.
Screen share going. Okay, I think I got it. Oh, okay, we're good now. All right, so I did this presentation originally for remember Scotty was doing those wake and bakes. He'd call people like first thing in the morning and Anyways, it's weird.
Yeah.
They don't do those anymore, but it was cool. Love Scotty, and dude, Scotty is over on Embracing Organics tonight. Shout out to Embracing Organics and Scotty and Recharge. So geothermal is in my opinion, one of the most important things for aquaponic greenhouse climate control. Just to give you a better idea of what we're talking about when we say geothermal, this is more like what we're talking about. So you can see here on the left-hand side, there's a tall stack of 55-gallon drums or manifold that pulls air from the hottest part of the greenhouse at the peak. It has a little, now normally when you design this in the real world, you'd have a little fan on there, usually a DC powered UV fan, air down to a centralized manifold. You can use 55-gallon drums, you can use 30-gallon drums, whatever you have on hand. And you're gonna put them butt to butt and then cut the bottoms out except for the very bottom one. And you can kind of set here in the pictures from Colorado when we did this build here where they're stacked up. And then we just cut holes for our 3-inch drain lines and then screwed those in and to make them fit. And then we can make a nice centralized manifold and then run them end to end in a V shape. Now we tried a grid square where it was square grid, and you'll see companies like Ceres and other people out there that do that. The problem is that you get really wonky airflow where some of the grid gets great airflow, some of the grid gets poor airflow. You end up with mold, you end up with mildew, you end up with all kinds of horrible problems. Whereas with the V shape, you end up with nice even airflow between point A and point B on both sides. So you end up with much better airflow and a much better climate gradient and about 3 degrees difference, a cooler in the wintertime, or I'm sorry, in the summertime, and in the wintertime, a little bit warmer. And then we also did some PEX lines underneath the deep part in order to do some geothermal with solar to try and heat the ground up and heat it that way. That didn't really work well, so I wouldn't recommend that. But doing these geothermal, again, making sure you have equal lengths. All these tubes, the connecting black 3-inch tubes need to be the same length. If you have a huge difference in length, you will have airflow problems. And this can be a great way to have immense climate control for a tiny little solar panel, 100-watt solar panel. In the wintertime, you're going to have 57-degree air to heat from, and then go up from there. In the winter, in the summertime, you're going to have, nice cool air that you can pull for free. You can also do a similar methodology with coils to cool down water. In Oklahoma here, our water is getting pretty toasty. We're around 77 degrees right now, which is way warmer than I'd ever like it to be. We're actually going to be looking at putting coils in here as soon as we finish the outdoor. We can use the heavy equipment to dig us a nice big trench out and put some coils in to cool down the system and get that water cooled back down. But I know Bain up at Vertica just did that, and maybe we can get him to come on and talk about that project. I know he's got a bunch of cool pictures. So here's the solar water heaters that we used. Robbie and I tested them back when I worked at the aquaponic source. You can see the coils here on the right below the solar panels on the top right. They would heat the water, and that hot water would go through a closed loop and work on a heat exchanger. You can see the metal coils there on the lower right hand side. That would go down into the tank and heat the water up and keep that greenhouse nice and piping hot. And then you can see in the below left hand side, we use scaffolding and an old bus frame that we cut in half with a blowtorch, along with the scaffolding footings in order to build a platform that we could constantly re-level if we needed to, or we could raise by quite a few inches up and down. And then we had it hinged in the middle so that we could access the pumps and the fish and whatever else we needed to access. And again, extremely cost effective, great if you're in a very cold climate, Colorado, anywhere in the and here run your heat exchangers through the pool, run your pool through the bottom. If I was in Canada or someplace like that where I really needed to maximize my thermal mass, you could have your fish tanks below your grow beds in order to maximize that thermal mass and capture the most amount of heat for climate control inside your greenhouse. It's over there, okay. Again, you can also use a gas backup heater. A tankless gas heater can be great for a backup heat source in order to replace, in case your solar water heater isn't working nighttime, or you know, you have a long winter storm, maybe an ice storm that kind of helps prevent a lot of that solar radiation from getting in there and heating that water. We managed to run a 50 by 30 by 18 foot 50 by 30 by 18 foot greenhouse with about 87 pounds of propane for the whole winter, and it worked extremely well. Alrighty. You can also, you know, do wet walls and everything else on cooling. Any other stuff you'd like to add on that, Marty?
No, I haven't. I mean, I haven't personally done a lot of the geothermal stuff. I built the solar water heaters before, which are, you know, relatively easy and straightforward to do.
Marty's muted, I think.
Definitely recommend those. I think that you know, I've seen your greenhouse presentation a number of times now, and I definitely want to try one out. Seems like you know, kind of a no-brainer if you can dig down to the depth you need, which you can usually find out pretty easily, like in your area, what kind of depth you need in order to you know, achieve the temperature that you want. And sometimes that can be challenging, but other than that, I think you know, it's kind of a no-brainer, I guess. Yeah, right there, Steve. Steve might have lost his sound. He's giving me that. I don't know. Look. Anyway, so what's up, chat? Dennis is just transplanting cuts. That's awesome. We're pretty much always transplanting cuts, and when we have all the sun coming out of the corner. And some have to come out of cuts into dual zones. And aquaponics is great for taking cuts, making cuts, growing cuts. That's great. I think I would have a nursery. I always see people asking me all the time, well, can I just keep my lawn in soil and just do aquaponics? Well, yeah, you can, but I don't know why you would. Grow so much faster, you get so many more cuts off your lawn for putting aquaponics. You don't have to water them. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Frosty, can you hear me? Dennis? You guys there? I assume you can hear me. Who's busting up the phone? But I'm excited about our new strains. It's going to be super cool. Haven't grown flowered out snowman yet. Oh yeah, thanks, Rusty. Haven't flowered out snowman yet. So keep it on his phone now.
So no, this is not going to work. Hold on a second. Okay. Nope. Okay. Nope. Damn it. Okay. Anyways, something is wrong. I cannot get my audio to work on my computer all of a sudden. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, I did the screen sharing and came back and it stopped working.
Frosty said he's got a bunch of gophers, rabbits and gophers he needs to chase out. Well, gophers, we always lay down like hardware cloth underneath our outdoor beds. So it's always a good way to keep them out. But yeah, that's that. I mean, there's can't remember. There was something they didn't like the smell of or the taste of. And Steve, you were talking about I think tomatoes, right? Nightshades.
What's that?
Nightshade being
Okay, there we go. One mic. Okay.
so you were talking about nightshades being a deterrent for gophers.
Yes.
Is there any specific ones or more? Frosty is having gopher attacks.
We did ground cherries in San Diego, and that worked pretty well.
Right on.
Yeah. Just going through chat. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened when the audio on the computer all of a sudden was just like, fuck you. You don't understand what is the deal here. Anyways, I don't think anybody else cares. I'll figure that out later. So what we'll do is I will screen share this. Pull up the next one. Can everyone hear me okay before I go forward? Is my audio low?
All right.
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely not as nice as your other mic. I can hear you okay.
Okay. So hopefully everyone can see me now. All right. So this is the presentation that I was going to do at Aquaponic Association, but there was a mix-up with the schedule. I thought I was on an hour later than I was on, so we will do it today. So probiotics and microbes, beneficial insects, and aquaponics. This is a presentation that I did for the Aquaponics Association, mainly for vegetable producers, try and give them a little bit better options for what to do out there when fighting different pests that they, common pests that people run into, as well as turning people on to some more probiotic thinking with aquaponics. Hopefully everyone can see me.
Looks good.
Okay. All right, so pH control do's and don'ts. Go back. I need to minimize this. There we go. Okay, now I can see. So pH up control do's and don'ts. You want your pH between 6.6 and 6.8. The best way to raise your pH is potassium silicate calcium carbonate combination. This accounts for potassium, silica, and carbonate hardness, as well as calcium to help your plant. So this kind of covers the widest and broadest range of plant beneficial nutrients in a way that also appeases your need to raise pH over time. We also have potassium. The wrong way to do it would be something like potassium hydroxide, potassium hydrochloride, or potassium carbonate. Potassium carbonate isn't too bad, but again, you're not adding as much benefit as potassium silicate. And potassium hydroxide, again, hydroxides are very caustic and just don't have a place in organic or natural farming. They also are very easy to overshoot and overdose and kind of tend to create more problems than they help. Also, they're only adding half as many, adding potassium and hydrogen. I don't need more hydrogen, it's water. It's hydrogen and oxygen. So we already have plenty of hydrogen. We don't need any more. We need silica, we need carbonate. We don't need hydrogen. It's just redundant. A temperature and water vapor pressure deficit. So air temperature for aquaponics, you look between 72 and 86, generally depending on crop. Water temperature, generally between 66 and 72 for maximum oxygenation, as well as other nutrient availability. I'm not really sure what that background noise is. Something's dinging. It's not
Oh,
on
that
my
might be
end.
me. Sorry, I thought I was.
I was like, I don't have anything that makes that nice. If you're going outside these ranges, be sure your silica is above 55 parts, or I'm sorry, be sure your silica is above 60 parts per million. That really reduces both frost damage, heat damage, and increases mold resistance and reduces overall plant stress from a wide range of issues. We've noticed it also, if you're doing vegetables, will increase your shelf stability and shelf life of your crops. And if you're not doing vegetables, it can help increase your yields as well as just overall pest resistance. Your vapor pressure deficit is the difference between the amount of moisture in the air and the amount of moisture the air can hold when it's fully saturated. When it becomes fully saturated, the air will condense and precipitate on your plants. Again, here's kind of a good chart. You want to kind of keep it in that golden zone. And again, there's different charts for different crops. And remember, this temperature is not the air temperature, which many people think it is. It's the leaf surface temperature, not the air temperature. The plants don't care what the air temperature is. The plants care what the leaf surface temperature is, because that's what's going to determine what the air temperature is coming into the actual leaf itself, or fairly close to it. So that's what the plants are really going to cue in on. And that's why, if you're going to maximize plant growth, especially for cannabis, you're looking at that 86 to 88 degree temperature range to maximize plant growth speed. And then you're looking at around 75 to 80% humidity, which is much higher than most people are running their rooms. So that's really how you can get that, push those 3 inches a day growth rates and even higher is by locking in that high vapor pressure deficit and getting that dialed in and maintaining it, which is very easy to do in aquaponics. Spider mite control. So this is a spider mite, 2-spotted spider mite. These guys are very common in a wide range of different crops, cannabis, peppers, pretty much anything that grows in a garden. Great predators. One of the best ones is this Phytosuillus persimilis. That's the, or ignore the right part. This is a spider mite. I took this picture a couple months ago. Neosuillus fascialis is good. My main go-to is persimilis, and then if it's hot out, I go with Californicus. All the others can be used. The other go-to I would use is Stuthiomymus punctinium, again for high temperatures, mainly. And then lacewings also will help on them, although not entirely as well. Aphids. This is a picture from a grow I had visited and consulted on. That was completely overrun with aphids when I first got there. This is quite a few bong aphids. I've had really good luck with using Boswellia bassania as a really good knockback. If you're a vegetable producer, that's probably going to be your best and cheapest way to do it on a per application. If you buy the powder, you're looking at, the powder, the 1 pound powder is about 100 gallons. So you're looking at, a few, $1 to $2 per gallon per application. So that's pretty cheap compared to a lot of the other stuff out there. Lacewing larvae really go to town. Both brown and green lacewings really do great. And then your Aureuses do really awesome. And then Aphidillus, Colmani, although I've noticed with most of the cannabis aphids, Aphidillus ervi, which I don't actually have on this chart, Aphidillus ervi seems to be the one that does a little bit more heavy predation on the cannabis. Seems like I find those leftovers more than the other guys under the microscope. So, and then your ladybugs and stuff like that you can use as well. Although I'll be frank with you, I don't think the ladybugs work all that great. Ricefruit aphids. This is a really close-up picture of a ricefruit aphid that I took. You can even see his little eyes, beady little bastard eyes.
Yeah, and aphids too, you got to remember, like, not even just, first of all, there's a lot of types, but even even individual types, some species of lacewing will have multiple different life cycles. So they'll have, spring and fall forms, both male and female, both larvae and adults. So some of the species of aphids can look drastically different depending on what stage they're at in their life cycle. So identifying them, they don't just look the same all the time. So identifying them and knowing what stage they're at, like for instance, winged brood aphids, seeing a full-fledged adult with wings generally means that they're already fairly well established in wherever they're at, and so there's so many different types of aphids and so many different forms of aphids that you kind of have to do your homework and at least know what some of the different main life cycles look like, especially in your area, because most of the time it comes in from outside. So but that's the thing about aphids, is that there's just a ton of different forms. So do your homework, don't slack.
I was just listening to Zenthanol recently, and he was talking about how rice-root aphids regularly will host on grasses, and many of these different cannabis-associated aphids will grow right outside your grow, just in the yard, in the nearby forested areas. And this is why they can be kind of hard to treat, is you can knock them back and they can just come back in through any little tiny gap or any other, method that they sneak their little way in,
Yeah, I started releasing outside my grows, like close to doorways, and I think that, just releasing, some of the larger general predators outside that will survive in the area, I think is a great option to do, just to kind of create an extra barrier around the outside of your indoor. It's helpful keeping them out of your general house plants. A lot of people don't realize they're reinfecting their grow because they go take care of their house plants or their garden plants, and then bring them back inside their grow. So, it's just super important to be on it and understand that your pests change depending on temperature and humidity, and the insects that you use to hunt them should also be different. Matching your predators to your temperature and your humidity is probably one of the key things that you need to do if you want to be successful. Some of them simply won't even feed or even stick around if the temperature or humidity is too far out of whack. They might feed but at a very slow rate and not reproduce at all, and then you don't get nearly as much out of your investment, which can be quite a lot for some of these very specialized insects. It can be pretty expensive, but just releasing some green lacelings, some laceling cards outside around your grow, I think you notice a huge difference.
Yeah, so especially with the rice root aphids, I found that this is really an area where the dual root zones really excel. The dual root zones give a place for your predatory nematodes that won't really attack a healthy adult rice root aphid, but if that aphid gets any kind of problems with it, say the introduction of Bavaria pisania or PF97, which is the Isla, hold on, maybe Marty can look it up since I got my screens up. PF97 is Isla something or other. It's similar to Bavaria pisania. But basically, if you introduce these predatory fungi on a regular basis and spray them and weaken them, and then those nematodes can get in, they can kill both the young and the weakened ones to help knock them back. But I found kind of a combo of rove beetles and Bavaria pisania, and kind of just kind of running them with both of those is the best route with aquaponics in particular, because the Bavaria pisania and the PF97 both are not something that is doesn't hurt the fish at all, and loves that kind of more humid environment that these little guys tend to favor anyway. Also good for prevention too. if you're anywhere in the south, you should be doing regular sprays as a preventative for aphids, because if you get them, you're gonna, they can tear through your greenhouse. So we make sure we spray for, just a broad range of stuff, but in general, just to make sure that we never get any in the first place. Especially with the fact that we're selling clones and stuff like that, we don't want to ever share anything that isn't good. So we make sure that we do regular prevention. Alrighty, thrips. So thrips can be quite tricky. Again, your lacewings, predatory nematodes, your Steinernia, and then your rove beetles, as well as Hypoaspis miles. All are really great for wiping out thrips. Again, the rove beetles, not quite so much once they get larger, but the babies do. And H. miles, which is now Stridulaelaps schimatus, is also another good option. Again, for wiping out your thrips. Remember, they lay eggs predominantly in the soil, so they usually crawl down. They don't have to, but they generally crawl back down into the soil to lay their eggs. So that is the easiest place to kill them, either with nematodes or with a predator.
I've even had success just creating a physical barrier over the top of the root zone as well, just to keep, because they love to travel. Again, it's another insect that has multiple forms or stages of life, I should say. I'm sure there's some technical term that I'm too stoned to remember at the moment, but they move up and down the plant depending on their life cycle, and so it's important to kind of have, in my opinion, like an area of attack for kind of each one of them. So if you have nematodes and rove beetles in your soil, and you have H. miles on top of your soil, and you have green lacewings in like a Persimmilus or Swarovski or something like that that's going to be in your canopy, then you're kind of covered, all three of those areas, pretty thoroughly in order to eliminate them. So between the physical barrier that covers the top of your soil, and the insects that are roaming the different parts of them, that's how you are able to kind of get rid of them. And again, the Basania Bavaria mixed into the soil is always great for most of these things. Pretty much anything root zone related is going to help you take care of those. And like Steve was talking about, it's a great place to target them, specifically because if you can kill off the younger generations, then you don't have any more eggs laid, and that really helps out a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And thrips, generally aren't that big of a problem. They can overrun, some younger plants, but they have to get to pretty psychotic numbers. They can be a little unsightly, but generally they don't really screw with the production all that much.
I don't think I've ever seen them like completely kill a relatively healthy plant. I mean, yeah, they'll definitely eat on it, and you'll have bug damage, but I don't think I've ever seen them outright kill an entire plant. So a lot of times you can get to them and get them controlled, and at least get the plant to harvest without a ton of loss. Definitely not like spider mites that will spread so quickly and kill off an entire plant, within days.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to correct myself on this one. Ignore the horsetail pictures and just imagine that those are stinging nettle instead. What? I'm going to update myself. That's fine. Hey, we take in new data and we learn, right? And we share that data. So Silica really helps with pest resistance, disease resistance, mold resistance. It is almost never talked about in aquaponics. The easiest way to add it is with potassium silicate or calcium silicate or silicon dioxide. Calcium silicate, potassium silicate will both raise your pH. Silicon dioxide will have a lesser effect on pH, but will also raise pH. Ideally, you want to maintain around 60 ppms or higher for greens and 80 ppms or higher for flowering crops, and it can really increase production in a whole wide range of ways, and then also dramatically increase heat stress, both hot and cold. Anything else you want to add, Marty?
No, I was just reading chat. Actually, there were a couple of questions in here that I did not see. One,
Yeah, fire it off.
Goodness says, I have a red bug pinhead size that sucks the juices out of cannabis tips. It leaves round, dead spots on the new sets of leaves. So it kind of sounds like you're talking about broad mites there, Dennis. I would say, just based on your description on their color, their size, and or the results that you're describing. I'd have to see some pictures to know for sure, but yeah. And let's see, what else do we see here? When you say you're not too crazy about ladybugs, is that for that particular pest or their predation in general? I think Steve said that earlier, but I agree with him about ladybugs, and that I guess for aphids would probably be the one thing that I would say that maybe I would think about doing it. But the main issues with them is that they're really fickle. They tend to fly off relatively quickly. You can do things like let them down with water as you release them, like cold water. Or you can kind of like shock them into stay for a little while. But I think for the most part, they tend to fly off a lot, and they can travel a little bit farther than some of the other flying insects that we use as predators, like pirate bugs, for instance, can fly, but generally they fly relatively short distances and don't travel in as large of intervals. So it can be difficult to get ladybugs to stay around. They also don't generally eat eggs or relatively small insects. So like the broad mites that we're talking about for Dennis that are pinhead sized, they're probably going to move on if that's your only diet for them. And even the larger insects, they tend to only eat the adults, so it almost becomes a farming situation. They allow them to get larger and eat and continue to lay eggs. So they might help in a knockback situation, but they usually don't eliminate an infestation of really just about anything. So that's why I'm not overly crazy about them. They are cheap, but I think for the same cost, you can get lacewings, which don't fly away, but they still crawl and cover all areas of eggs, small insects, large insects. They get bigger. And for indoor, they're much better because they don't fly up into the lights. So ladybugs on indoors, they'll fly up into the lights and die and fall down and make a mess. So they're not the greatest indoor either. Smaller than pinhead with black spots on back, look like mini ladybugs. That sounds like spider mites, Dennis.
I would, if you could take some pictures and post them in the Aquaponic Cannabis Facebook group, or even just post them to Reddit on Facebook or on Aquaponic Reddit. We can get a picture and see, or email them to me at ponics@gmail.com, and we can better ID it for you, buddy. The other thing I would say to add on to what Marty said about ladybugs is, one, they are not remotely ethically harvested. They are vacuum cleaned off of the handful of refugees places they go for refuge over the winter, with shop vacs by people that do not care about it. I've met some of them firsthand living in California. I'm sure Marty knows what I'm talking about as well. But they just go up and start vacuum cleaning these things off, and it's not sustainable. All the other insects that we recommended are bred in laboratories and are sustainably produced. Ladybugs are not sustainably produced, unlike all other bugs that are sold in North America. So this is another major reason why we should not support them or buy them. The other thing is that unless you have just some plain Jane aphids, they kind of don't do anything. They suck at spider mites. They're not that great at aphids. If you have aphids, you have to overrun them. You kind of have to carpet bomb the place with ladybugs to get them to actually knock them back. You kind of need them to be at such a high population. They kind of just feed on everything before they run out of food. Because once the babies come around, they don't do as well. Lacewing larvae will eat like 3 to 4 times the number of aphids or spider mites per day. And it's, you know, they're much more cost effective as well.
Again, you know, go back to your temperature and humidity settings in terms of what other pests you want to use that might be more specialized. Like if you want to use, like let's say you're running a lower humidity, like an indoor or a greenhouse in a desert type area, you know, you might want to run Californicus as opposed to a Persimmilus. But if you have a high humidity environment, if you're in a controlled environment where you're purposefully keeping the humidity high, or better yet, you can adjust it before your release, then you can get the humidity up, you can get the temperatures in the right zone, then release all your predators. And then something like a Persimmilus will reproduce drastically faster at above like 60 to 65% humidity than it will at even like 50 to 55% humidity. It can make a huge difference in the amount of bugs that you have to release in order to, whether you're just maintaining your perimeter and your IPM around your plants, or you're treating an infestation. Either one. You know, try to match the insects you use to your environment and whatever prey you're trying to target.
Absolutely too. And the other thing is max temperature. You know, we just completely switched all of our beneficial insect regimen here in Oklahoma for the summertime, because everything here now has to survive over 100 degrees, because if we get a 115, 120 degree day, even with the greenhouse at full blast climate control, we're still going to hit 95, maybe even 100 if it's brutal out that day, right? So we need beneficial insects that aren't going to die at the temperature, you know, or not all the pest insects will. So we switched to Californicus and to assassin bugs and to Struthioleps punctinium, or Struthius punctinium, or wherever you pronounce that, the little ladybird. They call them the spider mite destroyer. They also attack a wide range of other things aside from spider mites, but they're really, you know, those guys, those 3 in particular, will survive really high temperatures and are all really good and will fly, and rove beetles as well. All those guys can, you know, roam around the greenhouse and won't croak just because it gets toasty.
And again, you know, your rove beetles are going to be great for getting into your soil areas.
Yep.
So, you know, they're going to be, you know, target different ones, I guess, is really the different zones in which that they will live in. So if you know what you're after, or in your preventative stuff, you should still know what you're after. Like if you don't have an infestation, you should still know what bugs are going to likely show up given what is in your environment. Kind of like what Steve's slide is up here. Know your local insects. Your local insects are what should be on your target list for just your generic IPM regimen, like what you're defending against, what you need a perimeter around your garden for. So just because you don't have an infestation doesn't mean that you don't have a target bug. It means that your target bug is anything that lives outside and can possibly come inside. And some of them are just always going to, like spider mites, if you're growing cannabis, or really just about any leafy green, I guess, but cannabis specifically, that you get from somewhere else, then, you know, spider mites is always going to be on your likely suspects list in terms of what you should be releasing for in your general IPM treatment.
Oh yeah. You should pretty much, you know, be doing some kind of generalist, like lace, pretty much, in my opinion, lace wings, unless it's really hot, all the time. They're cheap. They kill a whole wide range of stuff, and their price per release is so cheap. It's very, very smart. And then, you know, some kind of predatory mite. You know, if you want a more generalist, maybe a Swarovskii or something like that. If you want something more specialized and specifically for spider mites, maybe go with the Persimmilus or you know, spider mite destroyers, although they're more expensive. We're mainly using those because of the temperature. Again, trying to think. I lost my train of thought there.
Yeah, so I think that it's just a matter of selecting all those things. And then, one of the things that we didn't really talk about, and maybe it's in a different slide, but banker plants are another great option that I'm working on getting set up in my grow too. I've got the seeds to get those going, and that'll be one of the things that I work on after I get all the cannabis in place. Is hopefully I'll have all the spacing set right now. So that I'll be able to keep my banker plants in there and just replace the cannabis plants between runs. So we'll see how that goes. But essentially I want plants that will be there that will provide pollen. I am considering getting they have some pollen feed. They call it like from Arbico, it's like powered bug food or something like that. Yeah, Dennis, the links are in the description down below.
Yeah, there's any of your ornamental peppers are good for that. Purple flash peppers, any of those like tiny little nuclear hot peppers, the kind you'd have kind of on your desk for Christmas time, maybe. The red and yellow ones that look like little Christmas trees. Those are great because they continuously produce pollen. Anything that, particularly pepper family that continuously produces pollen, is really good for feeding Aureus and other rove beetles and other insects that will fall back to feeding on pollen as a protein source when insect meat is not available. Other good options, out here we're going to be doing 5 acres, or actually almost 6 acres now. With the pond there, we're thinking really hard about getting a bunch of runner ducks, maybe getting 30 to 50 runner ducks for grasshopper, slug, and other general insect prevention. They won't affect the plants at all. We have a nice big pond and a beaver in there and everything else. So we're thinking about moving that direction. I know Josh Dutch Blooms has had a lot of good luck with that. I know the first year he grew out there, he lost quite a few of his starts to the slugs. So the second year he switched to those ducks, and I know last year he had a lot more success than the previous year. So definitely something else to think about if you're looking for something economical and ecologically minded that can also produce a little extra side money in the way of eggs and meat occasionally. Alrighty, so know your local insects. You can see this. I believe it's a type of robber fly, but I could be wrong on that, or a horse fly. I'm not really sure, but you can see here. This is looks like a normal fly. That is a 3.5-inch grasshopper that it captured and is chewing the back of the head of. So if you see these guys, it's unnerving when they're flying around you, and they can bite you, but generally they are some of the best grasshopper predators I've ever seen. And the outdoors last year in Oklahoma, we'd see them all the time, and they were just some of the best garden allies we had. Another great garden ally we had last year was this giant wheel bug. These wheel bugs also get 3 to 4 inches. They have a very, very painful venomous bite, but they are, again, one of the best defenses against grasshoppers, butterflies, crickets, any other large predatory insect, moths, caterpillars, anything like that, anything larger. They really do a kick-ass job at clearing out, and I think probably 70% of the time when I found one, I had something in its mouth, including some other larger spiders. I know not everyone out there likes spiders. If you want to keep your spider population low, keep your assassin bugs in your garden. They will do a good job of picking them off. Someone asked what we're putting on the farm. We're putting THC in the farm. This will be the largest THC grow I've done, that's for sure. Will be 6 acres plus another 4,000 square feet of indoor flowering, plus another 10,000 square feet of greenhouse, and then 2,000 square feet of mom room and about 1,200 square feet of clone room currently, and we'll be expanding on that later. So A lot of fun.
I do love mantis. They're so difficult to try to treat anything with because they take so long to hatch. That you by the time there are some places where they say that you can get an egg that's close to hatching, but even those I've had take quite a while to hatch still. They're supposed to hatch within 2 weeks of arriving, and instead that it still took probably a solid 5 for them to actually hatch. Some of them hatch sooner. Definitely not the kind of consistency that you would need. Most of the time, if you have an infestation that you want to treat, you don't want to put something out and wait 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks before it even starts treating anything. So they're great for flying stuff. Kids love them. They are great for most flying predators, or even smaller caterpillars. That's one thing you can time them for, especially outdoors, is if you want to time them for your trying to help deal with your caterpillar population when it's still small, then you can work with your local farmers or your local county to identify what time of year you're going to want them out, and then release some to cover that time period. So I do think that mantis are effective predators. They just are difficult to use for any kind of treatment, other than maybe the one example I just gave. But they're tons of fun. The kids love to go check on them and see if they've hatched yet. And they're great for catching flying insects. They seem to do a great job on those specifically, but and eat a wide range of stuff kind of in the same way. Anytime you see a wheel bug, it always has some in its mouth. I kind of feel the same way about mantis. They're almost anytime you see them, they're either hunting something or eating something or taking something down. I see we got the puppy made it. What'd you say, Draco? Is that his name, right? You muted, Steve.
I don't know if everyone else can see him. Can they see the little that part?
I think when you talk,
I don't think they can see him, but it's okay.
Yeah,
We'll get him on later. We'll get him on later. But yeah, mantises are great. The problem with mantises is mantises only do about an 8 to 10 foot square area, or like circular area around the egg, and then that's it. And about half of them eat the other half. And so you're better off, trying to spread them out. If you see the egg hatching, try to sprinkle them around the garden. You'll end up with more of them.
Yeah, if you can hatch them inside of a paper bag that's closed up, but you got to check on them all the time and make sure that they don't spend too long in the bag, or they'll just eat all of each other. But if you can hatch them inside of a bag, then you can kind of spread them out, and they won't just eat each other as much. And that's another thing that the kids like to do too, is when they do hatch, I just have my son loves to go out with a couple of sticks, and he has them crawl on there, and he'll go spread them around wherever. And it's pretty easy to do, and it can really help your coverage. But otherwise, yeah, they're pretty much going to stay in a 6x6 area.
That's, releasing insects is a great thing you can do with your kids in your garden. They can go around and hang the little bugs or sprinkle the bugs around the garden. If you're looking for something that you can include your kids in maybe not necessarily your cannabis grow, but certainly in your regular garden, depending on what state you're on and what the laws allow you to participate in with your family and what you choose to. But they can be great opportunities for kids to learn about the food chain and learn about how everything can work organically without necessarily having to be we spray it with this, you know what I mean?
For sure.
But again, learning what your predator. Another great example of learning what your local insects are would be the thrips. So here we have a little bumblebee thrip that seems to pick off seems to always go after little flower thrips. I only find them on the flower thrip plants, and every time I do, they seem to be feeding on one, and they look like little bumblebees. But you know, if I see them, there's no reason for me to try and treat them if they seem to be almost exclusively feeding on the other ones when I do see them. So there's no reason to worry about those. Same thing with 6-spotted thrips, or if I had thrips and spider mites, well, thrips will feed on spider mites. So treat the spider mites, then treat the thrips. If that was the instance that you were in, because you'll end up spending less money. So, and getting rid of them faster. So definitely, things to think about when you're treating them. Remember, 35% of all thrip species actually feed on other insects, not plants. So something else to consider. Alrighty. So whiteflies are one of the biggest vectors of plant viruses. I know there's at least 180 viruses that have been linked directly to whitefly being a vector. We see a beet leaf top virus, or was it beet leaf curl virus, tomato leaf curl virus, most of your mosaic viruses, despite how much people want to claim that they're variegation. It's not variegation in most pictures that I see online. It's one of the 14 species of mosaic virus. One of the best options is the Incarcia formosa. They work very well. We release them here regularly once a month to keep the whitefly at bay. They're pretty cheap, and it doesn't take a whole lot to ensure that they're there. We also have Incarcia inaran, Incarcia pernocchioso, depending on the species of the exact species of whitefly, and then Delapastius callinea, which is the little ladybird, the whitefly ladybird, which you can see down there in the bottom left, cute little guy with the black shiny body there. He is a great, again, for feeding on the whiteflies. But again, the biggest issue with whiteflies is the fact that they vector so many viruses, and their waste produces black soot, which you can see on the picture on the right there on I believe it was a cucumber leaf. You can see the sooty mold there on some of their waste. Anaerobic or aerobic microbes and compost teas. So you can see the vortex brewers, and you have a GOT brewer. You can see just kind of a ghetto 55-gallon drum brewer. Most of our brew times we're doing for compost teas for aquaponics are 24 to 48 hours. Most of them are 24 to 36 hours. And what we're doing is maximizing the microbial loads with the fish waste. So we'll take a little bit of fish waste, some recharge, some other beneficial microbes, maybe some IMO2 or IMO3 or liquid IMO, depending on what we're doing, or maybe even IMO4 if you're into Korean natural farming. And toss it in a paint strainer and brew away. Make sure you have air stones. But again, anytime you're adding minerals, you should be adding microbes. You need that combo team. Your nurse needs a syringe to inject the nutrients and inject the medicine into your body. So if you don't have the syringe, your nurse can't work, right? So the microbes kind of function as the syringe for your nutrients. So make sure you have that there. And then again, adding a little bit of carbon, brown sugar or white sugar seems to be much better for compost tea brewing in aquaponics. If you're doing more for soil long-term, like making compost or making a soil batch, then molasses might be a better option. But strictly for tea, rapid tea brewing, you want to go with sugar in the raw or brown sugar. All right, trichoderma. Trichoderma is a good probiotic microbe for Pythium, Septoria, Fusarium, Botrytis, and other molds. Just remember, if you use too much trichoderma, it can over-dominate your other microbes. So kind of think of it as like a nuclear bomb to wipe out your bad issues, but you're going to have to come back in and re-inoculate with your good microbes in order to ensure that you have a good balanced population. Because if you have too much trichoderma, it'll end up causing you some negative problems. But if you have Pythium or root rot or some other major issue, you can use it to kind of wipe it out temporarily and kind of regain control of the battle so that you can win the war. Bacillus subtilis. This is one of our favorites. You can get it in Photosynthesis Plus, root probiotics microbes. We love a product called Cease, which is a foliar spray. It works incredibly well. We alternate that with another product called Sonata, which is Bacillus pomilis, which is another one. But again, for Pythium, root rot, Septoria, Fusarium, botrytis, molds, general prevention for molds. Bacillus pomilis, again, Sonata, Supreme, a whole wide range of different stuff have Bacillus pomilis. Streptomyces, again, the downside of streptomyces is it is patented by Monsanto. I'm sorry, Syngenta. I'm sorry, anyways, assholes. Again, very popular, halfway decent, in my opinion, at least with cannabis, kind of sucks generally, but it is good as a general preventative for most other crops. It just doesn't work particularly good for PM on cannabis, at least in my opinion. If you're looking to learn more about beneficial microbes for your aquaponic system, definitely check out Green Natural Farming. Master Cho's Natural Farming is a great book. Chris Trump is another great resource. I know, you can use IMOs 1 through 4. I wouldn't do IMO 5 in your aquaponic system, but IMOs 1 through 4 will be okay. Lactobacillus and then liquid IMO would be kind of the other highly recommended version to add into your aquaponic system on a regular basis. Labs is another really good one. We add labs to our system, particularly now that we're running very hot. We're adding labs once a week in order to prevent any root rot or Pythium until we can get that water cooled down. So kind of a cheap solution to ensure we don't have any issues until we can address it in a proper way. Water soluble calcium works very well in aquaponics without much of an issue. Same thing with water calcium phosphorus extract, as well as water soluble potassium as well. Some of the more advanced stuff I've been working with is the biodynamic accumulators. There's a link to the website if you want to get the data for yourself to both Duke University's and Build a Soils link. You can check it out. It has a really good tables for your nutrients for trying to figure out what to ferment. And for inputs, I've been doing a lot of, hey, does this actually work in the real world, work on this around this chart? Specifically for aquaponics, I will be publishing a lot of this data here in the next year or so, probably the next 2 years by the time I get through all of it, or at least the stuff that I'm concerned with that I think might be viable. There's a lot of compounds in a lot of these plants that when you ferment them happen to also kill fish, which is why there has to be some research done with this. So it's not as simple as going, hey, this is going to definitely work. So keep that in mind. I'm just trying to give you a toolbox. In no way am I going to claim that everything on this list is going to not kill your fish in any way. So don't, go using it and then claim I told you to kill your fish, right? But if you want something to tinker with and something to play with and direction to look at, and kind of a way to hybridize a lot of the dragonfly earth medicine and DemPure and natural farming methodology with aquaponics and the kind of control that we're used to with mineral salts. I think kind of this is the direction to kind of hybridize those two worlds in a way that makes everyone happy and still meets the plant's needs as well. So definitely something to look out for in the future. Labs. Now, there's a bunch of different ways that we can do labs, right? So we can go to the local grocery store. We can get that. You can see the Whole Health Premium Supplement Super Lactobacillus. That's your probiotic. You can get it at any pharmacy. You go to the pharmacy counter and tell them you want to buy the probiotic. Has 12 to 14 different types of lactobacillus. All of them will make different types of vitamin B. You're getting the wide range of vitamin B as a growth accelerator, as well as all the lactic acid and all the other wonderful compounds it makes. So, these are great compounds. The more you combine, kefir is another great one, again, for kind of cheating and speeding up the process. If I'm a commercial grower, I don't have time to do it with the rice water and wait a week and blah, blah, blah. It just takes too long. Plus, if I'm in a commercial setting, if I'm doing something in a food safe kind of thing, the food safety inspector is not going to buy that, right? Like, just not going to fly. But if I can get some food safe kefir or kefir and and do it that way, okay, well, that's something that actually I can work with in a food safety way and mass produce on a quick turnaround in a commercial setting, and 2 or 3 days start making large batches instead of a week or 2 or whatever, 2 weeks like it can take sometimes with the traditional method. Again, it takes too long. I don't have time. I'm running a commercial farm. I don't have time, and nobody got time for that. So we use labs, we use kefir, we use probiotic labs to achieve the exact same function as that, except in a much more accelerated rate with a broader diversity of vitamin B complex, which gives you a much better growth acceleration rate across the board than with traditional natural farming methodology around lactobacillus. It's something I really think that the natural farming world needs to kind of move in the right direction on is, hey, it's a cool idea with the labs. Let's take that to the, let's take that and extrapolate that farther down the line into, kefir and, lactobacillus microbes have a long and storied history with humanity, and there's thousands of different ones that we use on a regular basis for milk and yogurt and cheese and butter and all these different things that we haven't even touched in terms of plant benefits. So there's a lot of space that needs to be explored. Someone asked, are you required to tell your local government where your genetics are sourced from? We are not, that as far as I'm aware. They were doing that in the beginning, where you had so long, but as far as I'm aware now, there's no real restrictions on that. I could be wrong, but yeah, again, I'm not 100% sure. I don't believe there is, though. But yeah, so if you're in the city, you can go get those probiotics. You can buy EM1, you can get kefir, you can get yogurt. All these are places that you can source lactobacillus for your labs in a way that might be a little bit more reasonable or easy for you to source if you're in a far-flung place. IMO. So IMO, again, I would highly recommend checking out either my video or Chris Trump's on IMO on how to make and collect indigenous microorganisms. Basically, you cook rice, put it in a box, collect saprophytic fungi, and then cut it 50% with sugar, and then use that to inoculate your microbial complex from your local forest microbes. And this allows you to collect your local microbes that help your plants grow that are adapted to your local climate. Oops, sorry. They're adapted to your local climate. They can help fend off a wide range of diseases. And really is one of the best inoculations that you can use for your aquaponic system. It's something that's very pretty much never talked about in aquaponics. I've been working on some aquatic IMO collections as well, a way to kind of collect stuff from either a stream or a river or a local body of water that would be mostly beneficial. And a lot of that information will be in the book that's coming out hopefully later this year, beginning of next year, whenever I finally have the damn time to finish it. Aquatic indigenous microorganisms. So you can do a collection. Again, we like to use the strainer bags, and we're using both either rice. We've also tried bran, or as well as infused sponges. So we've taken sea sponges and tried infusing them with sugar or molasses. Again, still experimenting with some stuff like that, but it kind of gives you some directions to poke at if you're looking for ways to try and seed your microbes in a way that might be more inhabitable, especially if you're doing trout or other very cold water species, collecting nitrifying bacteria and other mineralizing bacteria that are hyperactive at those cold temperatures and adapted to those cold temperatures, such as high altitude streams in Colorado or other places like that you can collect those types of microbes will really benefit your systems. Off-the-shelf probiotic microbes, you got Recharge. You can check them out. They're really great guys. You got Mammoth P. Recharge is a wide range of beneficial microbes. You can pour it right into the system. Great for putting in your NDVRs or anything else to really maximize the use of it. Mammoth P is one of the best products I've seen for increasing phosphorus. It almost doubles the available phosphorus in an aquaponic system. Super, super great product. One of the best products I've seen microbially for aquaponics that's come out in the market and the whole time I've been researching it. Modern Microbes is another great one, a really good wide range of microbes that it can benefit your system. And then photosynthesis plus, again, another a wide range of beneficial microbes that you can use to seed your system in the beginning or help maintain the microbial levels over time. Things to avoid: yucca extract and saponin. They will kill your fish within minutes. UV sterilizers, contrary to popular belief, they dramatically negatively impact iron, boron, and manganese. Ozonators will hyperoxidize your iron. You've got really goofy people out there, like in some Facebook groups, that recommend magnesium oxide and other things. Well, what's going to happen to your iron when you add an oxide? You're going to destroy it. So again, you got people that are not really using their brains. Too much trichoderma, again, can wipe out your microbes. Mixing too many microbes in one batch, again, they can start to compete or kill each other. You want to kind of add them over time and allow them to populate and colonize the system and find their place in the food chain. Too much of a pH change when adjusting for mineralization can wipe out your microbes. If I have a super low pH and I quickly bump it up to dump it into the system, I can instantly kill all my microbes and basically negate all the hard work I did. Hydroxides, again, quickly killing your system by overshooting it and not actually adding 2 nutrients instead of 1. Your hydroxides add 1 nutrient. Everything else adds 2 or 3 nutrients depending on what you're using. And not providing enough food for your microbes being dosed. Again, not enough sugars, not enough other secondary mineralization sources or inputs, I guess, for lack of a better broad term, for your microbes to be able to fully utilize the most of your fish waste. Some great resources. Elaine Ingham out there is the Soil Food Web. You got Chris Trump at Natural Farming Co. He has great classes. I believe his next one's coming up in August in Idaho. I believe it's August or September. You got Microbe Organics, great reference place if you're looking to learn more about microbes. It's been there for a very long time. Great place. He has really cool reference tables as well. You can buy his reference videos on microbes if you want to learn what's what. Omax microscopes are great. I have a really big Omax microscope. It's wonderful for when we have to really look at those water microbes. We have Dynalite. Oh, where's the Dynalite? Here, this Dynalite I got here on the desk, and we use at least once a day, if not twice a day. Whenever I need a better look at something, we go ahead and throw it under here, and I can get a really good look and make sure it's not X, Y, and Z, or confirm that it is X, Y, and Z, or whatever it is I'm trying to look at better. But it really allows you a much better view of what's going on. Arbico Organics, again, great source for buying stuff, microbe-wise or beneficial insect-wise. Green Methods, another great beneficial insect place. BioBest, again, another beneficial insect place. And biologicco.com, again, beneficial insect place as well. The other thing I wanted to add on here that I don't have on the deck is Agdia. Agdia.com is a great place if we're trying to get test strips for viroids and trying to find out what virus we got. Alrighty, ignore the course there. Marty and I are working on the video format, but you can find out more on our podcast, Growing with Fishes. You may or may not be listening to that right now. Ponics.com, or the Facebook group. A lot of people don't know we have an Aquaponic Cannabis Growers Facebook group with a wide range of people from around the world, many of them commercial growers. And then the book that'll be coming out later in the year, or next year. So yeah, anyways, that was the presentation I was doing for the association. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Move the pupper one. Oh, here. Hey, don't chew on that. I'm trying to use that for internet connection. Here's a little pupper. That's pretty sweet. Do the rotating puppy. All right, let's see what chat has to say. It's been a while since I've been able to read chat. All right, probiotics is great. Looks like Oklahoma is doing things right compared to legal Canada, where we are a dumpster fire. I would agree with that. Yeah. So any other questions in chat? We kind of went through a bunch of content there. I'm not really sure what happened to Marty. I guess he had to step away for a moment. Any other questions that you guys have in chat? We tried to cover some stuff that I kind of had. We're trying to have a guest that we're trying to get on that had to reschedule or wasn't able to get on today. We were kind of hoping. I haven't had time to schedule people as much as I'd wanted to. So yeah. Any advice for killing field mice and chewing on killing my stocks? Yeah, you can come to the farm here. We got a whole bunch of farm cats. We'll give you like 20 or 30 of them, and you can spread them out. We've actually been talking about starting to feed the barn cats out by our mixing tanks in the field for that reason, just to prevent anything like that from happening. We actually just had that discussion 2 days ago, specifically on putting a feed station out by our mix tanks. Oh, that's a great question. Someone asked, what lab dose would you use for aquaponics? So for labs, for aquaponics, for those of you that aren't aware, and this will be in the book that I'm releasing, but it's not really out there I really should do a video series on KNF and aquaponics, but maybe I'll do that once I finish everything else I'm trying to get done right now. So with labs, you want to do about a 1 gallon to 1,000 gallons on your dose for maintenance in your aquaponic system. And then if you're doing it to treat a disease, you can do as high as a 1 to 500. I would not do higher than a 1 to 500 because sometimes it starts to affect some of your either mineralization processes. You can absolutely use it, if you want to do a flush of a 1 to 250 or 1 to 300 on an NFT system to quick treat epithium or something like that, that would be fine. But, a 1 to 500 probably would work just the same. I don't know if that helps you out at all. But generally on a maintenance dose, a 1 to 1,000. So I'll tell you here, and we actually stretch that a little bit. So for here, we're doing around 8 to 12 gallons, depending on temperature. A week in 18,000 gallons. So we're doing slightly below that just because of cost. Well, not cost, just ease of getting that much milk on a regular basis. To be frank with you, and if we had access to cows or a dairy farm nearby, we'd do it up. All right. Well, I'm not sure what happened to Marty, but we've had quite the exciting episode. I think we will wrap up the show. A big shout out to can't find it on Facebook. If you can't find the Facebook group, it's for whatever reason Facebook censors cannabis stuff. So go to facebook.com/groups/APCanna. That's APCANNA. So facebook.com/groups/APCanna, and that will get you to the Facebook group. If you're having a hard time finding it through the search function, that will connect you directly. Again, we have an awesome file section there. We have testing, nutrient testing, Excel sheet I put up on there. There's the dynamic accumulators table is on there. A bunch of useful books are on there, a whole bunch of cool stuff. So if you haven't checked it out, be sure to check it out over there. And thanks a lot everyone else for watching. We'll be back again Tuesday or Thursday. I apologize for not having a show on Tuesday. We just got really busy getting the backyard planted, but we're gonna be a little bit busy this next week or two, and then we'll be back to normal schedule. We'll try to get some cool guests on again. I know it was a blast having Kevin on, so and then hanging out with Chris last week. So we'll be sure to have some more of that. Big shout out to True Aquaponics again for their aquaponic minerals and working together with them on the subscription service. You should check that out at trueaquaponics.com. You can find me on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify, and all the different places that you can listen to podcasts. Thanks a lot for Marty on the information that he was providing. You can find out him at AP Meds. And yeah, we'll be back again soon. Be sure to check out your local Oklahoma dispensary for stuff from Organic Innovations, the latest aquaponic cannabis products. We will have a hot new line of resins. I believe we have 9 or 10 live resins. They're going to hit the market next week or the week after, depending on when it clears testing. I believe the testing came back today, or if not, it's supposed to come back tomorrow. And then we can start getting those out. So thanks a lot, everyone. And we will catch you guys again soon.